Okay, so sometimes I'm guilty of just showing off the latest and newest feature or button on a Lexus. But in the comment section, some people have asked me to review some of the less talked about features. So in today's video, I'm gonna be going over how to use the steering wheel controls on your Lexus, especially if it's the older style that's just like the analog buttons instead of that new intelligent touch one. So we're gonna use it on this UX beside me, but it is definitely applicable to many different models and packages, even in the newer models. Also, maybe we'll go over the gauge cluster a little bit too, because it did get changed on the UX recently. I'm Dustin Mason from Performance Lexus in St. Catharines. Make sure you hit like and subscribe for more content. Okay, so now that we're getting nice and nestled into the UX 300, this one is an F Sport Series 2, but it does have the more analog, it's funny to say because those are digital buttons still, but an analog steering wheel controls. So let's go through it. So since we're in a hybrid, we can start it in the showroom here and just get a little bit adjusted. So even though that we have the analog buttons on the steering wheel, it is still a really modern display on this car. So we'll kind of just go through and I'll show you what some of these buttons do, or we'll go through all of the buttons. First things first, let's start with, we'll start on the left. So on the left, we have these arrows that go up and down and left and right. Now, funny enough, you'll notice that this is the same as what we saw on, the new RX or the TX when it first launched, and that is the pages. So going left and right, we're gonna see some different pages here. On page 1, the way it's set up right now, we have our fuel economy to the left, and right now it says 11.9, but we know that's not gonna be the case. Below that, we have our coolant temperature. Now, a lot of people will say, why does a hybrid even need to know the coolant temperature? I think this is one of those things that it's just one of those gauges we're used to in cars. Seeing that the car is heating up to the right temperature, which is usually smack dab in the middle of that gauge, tells us that the heat is gonna work, the AC is gonna work, we're not going into the red for some odd known reason. Especially when this car is 20 years old, it'll probably still be on the road. So to make sure that those systems are working carefully, it still shows it there. Also, I always forget to mention the small lights that show up. So we have in that bottom left corner, obviously our odometer, but also the rear, you'll see 3 little guys or girls or whatever, 3 little peoples, and they're red and it says rear, and then there's also the red to the passenger side. So what that means is it'll tell you if the airbags are on or off, or if there's people in those seats, again, mainly for like car seats and stuff like that. We see the word ready in green, and that means that the hybrid system is ready to go. So we can take full advantage of the fuel economy and using that electric motor and being able to put it in things like EV mode. That's what that ready is saying. Moving up from that, we have our 20 degrees ambient temperature, which is apparently what the showroom is right now. And in the middle, we have this gauge. It's like our quote unquote RPM gauge, but also our speed, also a little graph. So if we were driving, we would see a little needle move from like power down to eco, and then even negative into the charge. So for instance, that needle will go into the charge when we're applying brake pressure. And when the brakes are depressed, and then we're gonna see, us charging up that regenerative braking. The eco range is just gonna be like a pat on the back, like we are driving eco-friendly right now. And then over to the power mark, that's when we're trying to get some power out of this thing. Another thing you'll notice, and I know I'm supposed to be talking about the steering wheel still, but when I press the brake, you will see the exact shape of the brake lights light up on that gauge as well, to show that we are pressing the brake, and the RX does that as well. It does keep clicking because of, we're kind of just parked here with the doors open. It's telling me to shut off the car if I want to. So that's what that is. It's also telling me that the doors are open, which they are. So that's what that looks like. Over to the right, top right, we have our time, which is not 11:30 at night right now. We have drive info, so average speed, total time driven on this car, and then our range. So pretty cool for you guys to be able to see that on a full tank of gas. Even though this one's done a lot of idling, that's why it's 11.9 liters per 100, we can still get almost 800 kilometers to a tank. If this was actually being driven, that average would be way lower. It'd be down to like 6 or 7 or 8, depending. And the fuel gauge, or that range, would be a lot higher as well. We see some other icons towards the bottom. So we have like lane departures on, cruise control is showing up there. But again, we need to be driving to use those types of features. And then to the right, we have our fog lights, which you can turn on and off. Oh, there's the fog light. That other one was just the headlights, I think. But anyway, you get the point. So now back to the arrows. So if I were to press right arrow, now we would go to page number 2. So page number 2 has some of the same info, but a lot of different configured stuff. For instance, we now see an EV driving ratio on the side, and it says 100%, meaning in this trip or the last trip, I guess this current trip, we have been 100% EV because the gas engine has not kicked on. We see the kilometers an hour pops up in the top middle, and then there's like a big open space in the center. That's actually gonna be for things like radar cruise control and stuff like that when we're driving. Let's see if it'll let me do it. I don't think it's gonna, no, it's not gonna let me do it, but that's okay. And then over to the right, we now have just a little display or color picture of the car, the battery of the car, the internal combustion engine at the front, and we would see some arrows moving, you know, throughout that if we were driving right now. So it's just, again, another little visual aid. Page number 3. So now we have a little empty spot to the left. Now that is for music. So our music would show there. So whatever station or Spotify you're listening to, it's a color screen. So you're gonna see album art, you're gonna see everything there. In the middle, we now just have our, back to that same sort of dial. And then also it has the radar cruise. And like, I like to call it the simulated road in the center. So in that simulated road, we're gonna see our radar cruise control, we're gonna see our lane departure alert, all those things working there. Again, I can't really, oh, I can simulate it, look. So I can change the distance of the car in front of us, even on the screen. And it's not that annoying, like it's kind of like a dark gray. It's not, you know, bright yellow or anything like that. And I'll get to that button in a second, but I just wanted to show it to you. And then to the right, we have our compass. And anytime we see a compass, it also means with Lexus, it'll be turn-by-turn directions. So if we had something hooked up to the navigation, it would show in that right side compass. So that's what that does. Now you might ask, what does the up and down do then? So depending on the way it's, you know, structured, usually not a whole lot. Some screens you can go up and down for, like, you know, if we were customizing. So if I hold OK here and we wanted to customize what we see, because we can customize all of these guys. We can customize every single one. Now we're gonna use up and down. So now we can change it to map 1, map 2, blank. Like it just depends what we want in the middle there. So what I just discovered is instead of like the radar cruise control, we could have it that it shows map 1. So if we had navigation up, it would show up there in the center. And then same thing if we go to this one, we could hold OK and we could add driving support to that screen. We could do map 1, map 2, blank. So just shows you, you can customize it a little bit. Below that we have volume, so we can crank up the volume with your thumb. That is the nice thing about a hard button is you can just like jam it and go really quick or hold it and go quick. We have our voice command button. So if you press that and you can say, you know, hey Lexus or call Bhaskar, call work, stuff like that, and it'll all go up through the screen. And you can use Siri's eyes free for that too. We have our phone button. So again, just a shortcut to our phone. That way your phone will pop up, you can see, you know, the commands there. And then you've seen me press it a few times today. This is the back button. If there's ever a message up there, you can just press it or hold it and it'll kind of clear it all for now. A really skip button is gonna be this guy here. Very loud horn, as you can hear. I've never done that on this channel, I don't think, so I had to. And makes us over to the right. So over to the right, now these are more about the cruise control and the lane departure and stuff. But we do have a mode button here. And some people think that it's a drive mode, but no, it's just a radio mode. So we could go from like AM radio, FM radio, XM radio, Bluetooth, that sort of thing. You could just cycle through that. And then these arrows here are going to be next track or also for favorites. So we're gonna be skip, next. If we have our preset radio, which I recommend you do, you can go through your radio stations there. Moving up, we have our cruise control. So this is gonna be how to turn cruise control on and off. It's not gonna let me do it because we're parked. Even if I put it in drive, it's angry at me because the doors are open. But that's how you turn on and off cruise control. Then we have lane departure or lane centering below that. So again, we're gonna cycle through that. If it's lane centering, you will see the little hands on the steering wheel. So that combined with radar cruise control is amazing. It's gonna keep us right center of the lane. And even if it turns and stuff, it's really good. Then we have res and down and up. So if we, for some reason, are using cruise control and we pause it or stop it, maybe touch the brakes, and we wanna get back to that cruise control setting, just hit resume. Or we can go up and down with those arrows too. And then also you can cancel. So instead of touching the brake, you can just cancel that cruise control with that button. Then we have cruise control mode. So even though I love all of the advanced intelligent features, not everybody does. Adaptive is the favorite. So that's the one with lane centering assist, that's the safest. It's gonna give you the most autonomy there. You can just put it in normal cruise control. So that's how you cycle that. That was actually feedback from guests. Some of our old school guests wanted to be able to use it the old school way. And then below that is gonna be our distance. So again, just our distance between the car in front of us. So one thing I do want to talk about before I know I was mostly talking about the steering wheel controls. If we touch the drive mode, so if we put it in sport, we will see a change to that gauge cluster on the outside. So sport kind of makes it look more like a tachometer, and then Sport Plus changes it one more time. So Sport Plus also gives us kind of like an old school tach or speedo that's like left to right instead of like the wheel. Anybody that's been in like an older classic muscle car would know. And then if we go to Eco, it cycles to a different screen. Normal cycles to just, again, just changing those colors a little bit. But it is worth noting. Okay, so there you have it, a little bit of a deep dive into the steering wheel controls of this particular Lexus setup. I did go over a little bit of like what the different screens do and how they look and how you can customize them and stuff like that. So let me know in the comments what you thought of this video and if there's any other topics that I should tackle that are similar to this one. Make sure you hit like and subscribe for more Lexus related content. I'm Dustin Mason, and you can always find me on Instagram to ask for any ideas you have for videos like this.